There were hundreds, and frankly, seemingly thousands of World War II games that came out from the 90s until deep into the 2000s, so it stands to reason that not all of them are fondly remembered, or even remembered at all. Among the forgotten ones, a few stand tall and proud, even if not in the memories of most people. Welcome to the Abandonware Treasure Hunt. I'm Professor Halfpenny. Since you couldn't spit without hitting a World War II FPS, there were a few that tried to stand out from the crowd. One common tactic was to make the gameplay more tactical. The likely pinnacle of this approach is the Brothers in Arms trilogy, which, while not perfect, is awesome. One great thing this series did is merge a high difficulty with a superficial realism and great storytelling. Someday I'll talk about this series, but I mention it only to make you aware that this approach has been around for a long time. It's the approach that Illusion Softworks took many years earlier, in 1999, with Hidden and Dangerous. Only back then, they attempted to capture the magic by leaning heavier on realism. If you're watching this now, that may be hard to believe, but as is always the case in Professor Halfpenny's classroom, you should attempt to place yourself in the context of the time. So in order to share this game with the class, I will share my journey through it. I find it difficult to have an appreciation class without dragging you through the thing that we're appreciating. I'll be playing the Sega Dreamcast version of the game, released in 2000. The PC version of the game got a later release that broke the already buggy AI, but there's a good mod out there that fixes that and adds many big and small changes that improve it. Oddly, the Dreamcast version has the most reliable AI. Though it's still a sticking point, there's just no getting around it in this one. And it's a reasonably solid game. It only sports a few fatal flaws. Not bad, really. Honestly, I spent a lot of time with this version and I quite like it. 80% of it is a great way to experience this rough around the edges classic. One thing to note before we begin: if you play this game, play it on easy. Nobody will make fun of you. It's still tough as nails, but it's actually fair. It's the only fair difficulty setting. In harder difficulties, the game likes to cheat. Some later enemy soldier types become absolute bullet sponges. Some can even take nearly a full SMG magazine from close range before going down. Meanwhile, if they manage to hit you 2 or 3 times, it's curtains. Anyway, onward we go. You play as an anachronistic SAS unit operating in various theaters of the war that the real SAS did not operate in. It seems that the SAS of this game took on some of the tasks that the British commandos did in real life. With that said, let's continue to Italy. The game is broken up into several campaigns, and in this first one, we are attempting to rescue an air crew that was shot down. This first mission is a great introduction to the game, but it doesn't ease you in. Here, I'm using a button combo to bring up a command menu and order my guys around. The cool thing about this is that those who are close enough to hear you will carry out your order, and the range is very short, so guys that should hear you might not, but overall the way the game handles this quick command menu is very smart. More on that later. As we make our way across, we must dispatch this patrolling officer and the 2 that emerge from the house afterward. Then we must cross the bridge. In one of the GOG.com versions of this game, your squad mates will be fully unable to cross the bridge and run straight into the water to their deaths. Yeah, by the way, nobody can swim, so watch out for that. On the Dreamcast, these guys do okay here. On the other side of the bridge, several Nazis are posted up, so we're going to turn out their lights and then make our way over to the waiting truck. I was able to finish this mission on my first try, but I've played it many times. In the first playthrough of this game, this mission can really challenge the player. Now we're at the refinery that was targeted by the bomber that was shot down. We suspect the crew is being kept here, so we'll destroy the tanks the bombers missed and try to find our guys. Not good. Down goes one of ours. Here, I was trying to play the campaign with only 4 soldiers because it made more sense to me that accessing a reserve of soldiers wouldn't be possible in this campaign. But as I played it, I changed my mind on the question of probability. Also, who cares? It's a video game. But I tend to do that kind of thing. After discovering no missing pilots, we moved on to a train station that they will move the imprisoned airmen through. Not only must we rescue them, but we must also disable the anti-aircraft artillery and ignite a fuel car. The former to clear the way for the bombers and the latter to mark their target with the plume of fire that will emerge from the blacked out train station. This one was a toughie, and still no pilot. I lost 2 of my guys here, so this last mission will have to be tackled solo. I make my escape with no incident. In previous playthroughs, I've lost squad mates to the barrage unleashed by the friendly bombers above. Apparently they're loitering nearby because nearly the instant you ignite the fuel car, you hear the roar of their engines, followed shortly after by the din of their bombs striking the ground all around you. It's a cool bit of dynamism in a subgenre that, at the time, was very dry and sterile. Great touch, hidden and dangerous. This time, no friendly fire from the bombers, though. My lone wolf now must dispatch an entire unit of Nazis, destroy some armed and armored train cars, and free the imprisoned air crew. The train track was sabotaged and the train is left immobile, so we can pick off the guards and complete our objectives. Unfortunately, I'm out of dynamite, and I lost my bazooka in the previous mission. Fortunately, the game lets you improvise by using grenades. I know what you're thinking. How could you blow up an armored train car with mere anti-personnel grenades? Well, I'll have you know that you could definitely sabotage a vehicle and neutralize those inside with the grenades. So look at this not as a depiction of what would actually happen, but instead an abstraction of how one might off a train car if all they had were light anti-personnel grenades. First campaign done, by the skin of my teeth no less. Let's move on, shall we? This campaign takes place in Yugoslavia, and we must sabotage a dam or something. This campaign rocks, because it starts off with a major problem that we'll have to improvise our way out of. I think when I chose to use only 4 soldiers in the first campaign, I actually had this one in mind. Here it makes sense that you'd only have access to those immediately around you and whatever you're all carrying. Your transport plane is shot down, and you're forced to bail out. You'll all land scattered in a field that's heavily patrolled by enemies. You must link up and escape. What a cool mission. The difficulty ramps up further here, but the concept and design of the missions are so sublime that the motivation to push through is easy to come by. The next one is a clever change of pace and allows me to highlight one of the strengths of this game, whose many flaws will shortly become painfully apparent. It's got a wonderful sense of atmosphere. Here we sneak through a town in order to reach the docks and commandeer a small rickety boat, which we will use to approach our main objective. In the past, I, out of principle, brought my entire squad along for this one. However, upon reflection, it stood to reason that one infiltrator could be tasked with this mission while the rest of the squad could gather and wait down the river. Since the friendly AI is not reliable in stealth scenarios, this will be my headcanon. In this one, if anyone sees us, an alarm will immediately raise and will fail the mission. Yes, it's one of those. Get over it. The first playthrough of this mission can be very frustrating. But since I knew where stuff was, I snuck straight over to the civilian clothes on the clothesline, which I stole, which then allowed me to slip into the dock and onto the boat. First try this time. I declare this mission officially cool and not lame. The next mission is our main objective, destroy the lock. Since things haven't gone according to plan, again we strive to improvise. Immediately we ditch the boat and make our way down the bank of the river to the objective. No pretense of stealth here. We'll be using covering and withering fire to thin out the numbers of enemies inside the complex. Carefully we approach, always watching our back until we can commandeer the unmanned tank, which we use to complete our objective. Time to bug out. This next one is a doozy. We expect the partisans in this base to welcome us with a hot meal and rest before dropping us off at the secret airfield beyond it. However, the whole joint is overrun with the Führer's fools. We gotta fight our way out, and it's not easy. In the exterior, they run toward the sounds of gunfire, utilizing the trenches for cover and navigation. In the base itself, they peer out, waiting for opportunistic shots. Here's where the first major issue we'll talk about rears its unfortunate head. When your character collides with the map geometry, it affects the direction he's looking at. So, unlike in a modern FPS where if you strafe into a wall, you will still be looking at the same place that you started looking at, and that you hitting the wall doesn't affect it. In this game, if you hit a wall, the character will annoyingly turn. It makes meticulously strafing to get the jump on enemies occasionally frustrating. Here, we have a casualty, but eventually we make it through, running on fumes. This mission is one of my favorites. It's a very cinematic Alamo holdout in which assaulting Nazis are fought off. Motorcycles with machine gun clad sidecars are destroyed spectacularly, and I tragically lose another guy at the end. He was so close, so close. When the plane arrives, we take off under heavy gunfire, sprinting toward it. Here, the absolute jankiness of the game is once again on display as we try to mount the airplane, but apparently you have to be just precisely in the exact spot for the game to let you get on. But we make it. Next campaign. Well, maybe not. I finished the first mission and was really looking forward to the second one, which is an awesome assault on a villa where a general is staying, or some high-ranking officer. But here, all the enemies were such bullet sponges. I just gave it up. Look, for this video, I played this game a lot. I've gotten past this part before, but choosing hard difficulty this time was a big mistake. Honestly, it's a bit downhill even more from here. The first mission is the first to showcase that the game's unsteady frame rate will prove to be a real problem. These frame rate issues are evident since the beginning of the game, but it doesn't impact the overall experience until this mission. There is even a later mission in this same campaign that's unplayable because it tasks you with driving down a highway in a German transport truck. On one hand, this is a very early example of a shooter game allowing you to use vehicles. Props for that. On the other hand, when you use the vehicles, the frame rate dips into the low single digits. I'm not kidding. After that, there are several other very cool missions. This game is cool. It's dripping with atmosphere and has a squad management system that is surprisingly useful, even if the usefulness of your squad mates themselves is hit or miss. Just look at this sequence, which showcases both things, the tense and believable atmosphere and the cool squad controls. One of the smartest things the quick command menu does can be seen here. I can give the order to one of my squad mates to essentially move to my crosshairs. The game will automatically choose the next guy in line and within earshot to execute the move order. Therefore, you can easily deduce who will probably move up when you say to move up. For all this game's problems, you can really see the love and attention to detail here in this little bit of creativity in interface design. The verdict for me, Professor Halfpenny, is as follows. This game is really awesome. Play it on easy difficulty. Play it on PC, play it on Dreamcast. It's great either way. I'll probably do another video on those mods for this game that I mentioned before. And I'm definitely doing a video on Hidden and Dangerous 2, which is so much better. Hidden and Dangerous 2 is a true squad shooter classic, in my opinion. But thank you so much for attending. And stick around, because next time we'll be discussing a dystopian blood sport hockey game called
Hyperblade. In the future, violence is swift, pain is quick, and death is very sudden. You choose the best from 12 teams from around the world, 48 of the fastest warriors. Enter the drone, where brutality is a spectator sport. In the drones, you become an armor-clad killer as you battle through an entire season filled with lethal obstacles and powerful weapons. Manage and build your team if you want to win. Keep your star players healthy if you want to survive. Activision combines the most ferocious elements of sporting and combat games to bring you the fastest game on the PC today. If the speed doesn't kill you, your opponent will. Hyperblade.